Shalom, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who would teach the truth and sincerity. And a shout out to Yakim that's out there on four corners of the earth proclaiming this truth. And so here it is. 2/3 of our people, as well as the wicked, are going to be celebrating bullshit Christmas that aren't paying attention to what's going on. While others that are in the know, yes, this Edomite here, Chris Green, is in the know that shit's about to get real out here, you know. U.S. stocks get slaughtered, worst December since the 1930s. He knows that this whole thing's crashing. But everybody's under the belief system that this shit's going to recover. It isn't. It's going to be even worse than the 1929 stock crash. Check this one out.
Hey everybody, Christopher Green, Alternative Media Television. I want to do a quick update for you. It is Monday, of course, as we approach the holidays. U.S. stock market gets absolutely slaughtered, just like we predicted. It's been an absolute freaking bloodbath. We are officially in bear market territory. Of course, I warned about all of this weeks and months ago. I said it would be the worst of our lifetime. It's about to begin. Stocks are going to get hammered. 401ks are going to go to zero. It'll be worse than 2008-09 on steroids. It'll mimic the Great Depression. And in fact, CNBC just put out an article today. This is the worst collapse in December since the Great Depression in, I think, if I remember correctly, 31? It might have been 33, but it's in that ballpark. So this is just beginning. Expect it to get much, much worse. Again, gold is going to be the immediate beneficiary, and we also saw a very huge rotation into Bitcoin and cryptos today. Bitcoin was up some 10%. Other cryptos up as much as 25%, some more.
And his faith in Bitcoin ain't going to save his ass. No, man. You better get ready for some slavery because of the fact that you 2/3 are going to be caught in these judgments as well. You know, partaking in Esau's holidays, you're going to get destroyed for that. So while all that's going on, of course, World War III is prepping up, as everyone knows that, pretty much it's over for America. As they pull out of the INF Treaty and out of every other treaty, they so-called want peace, but we know that America, Babylon the Great, has always been a warlike country. They're a warlike people. Because, of course, we're talking about the Edomites. So, let's see how the United States tries to undermine the peace process in Syria.
A positive agreement on the fate of Syria has been thrashed out in Switzerland's Geneva at a meeting that was hosted by the UN Special Syria Envoy Staffan de Mistura. Top diplomats from Russia, Iran and Turkey have agreed to launch a committee by January for drafting a new constitution now.
We have a very useful meeting with the Secretary General Special Envoy, agreed to take efforts aimed at convening the first session of the Constitutional Committee in Geneva early next year. These steps will lead to the launch of a viable and lasting Syrian-led, Syrian-owned and UN-facilitated political process.
In their closing statement, the three foreign ministers of Russia, Iran and Turkey wrote that they presented the positive results of their consultations on the formation of a Syrian constitutional committee to either rewrite the Syrian constitution or
all right, hold on a second.
In order to allow
yeah, that's the devil for you trying to interrupt this.
Syrian presidential election, part of a political resolution to this war that has raged on for so many years. The ministers themselves, from what we saw, were smiling and laughing afterwards. They described their work as, again, positive, and they have committed to seeing the Syrian Constitutional Committee sit for its first session early next year, early 2019. We hope, of course, that they'll be able to do this because this trio that have been working together for several years now, Russia, Iran and Turkey, they've been able to produce results, yield concrete results. We've seen ceasefires in Syria established with their backing. We've seen withdrawals, other deals, de-escalations, demilitarized zones established all over Syria. So there's a lot of optimism going going forward that they'll be able to get the rebels, the opposition, and the Syrian government to work together. Earlier on, the Turkish foreign minister, though, did remark that they had seen very little cooperation from the United States, and the coalition that it leads, the United States itself, has shared its goals, has publicly stated that its aims with regards to Syria have shifted, and it no longer sees unseating President Bashar al-Assad or regime change in Syria as a goal.
We're not asking for regime change. We're not asking for the Russians to leave. What we're asking for is a compromise settlement. There's a strong readiness on the part of Western nations not to ante up money for that disaster unless we have some kind of idea that the government is ready to compromise and thus not create yet another horror in the years ahead.
Nevertheless, the situation in Syria remains volatile, especially now with Turkey threatening to intervene to invade northern Syria out of security concerns, as they see the YPG Syrian Kurds that control much of northern Syria as a terrorist organization, and they have threatened to act. We're also seeing sporadic
And of course they're a terrorist organization because the United States controls the Kurdish region. And you know as well as I do that the United States, the whore, Babylon the Great, will always say one thing, but mean another. Double talk, because that's the devil, Esau. Speaking of Russia, now, pretty much, the 200 million nuclear missiles, well, pretty much, Russia's saying that they're ready to make new missiles when the United States officially moves out of the international, the INF. International Nuclear Treaty, the INT, I think. So let's just give her a listen.
The Russian president says that his country can easily make and deploy land-based intermediate-range missiles if the U.S. withdraws from a landmark nuclear arms control treaty.
The INF Treaty acts as a stabilizing factor and works to maintain a certain level of predictability and restraining the military sector. In case the treaty is broken by the United States, I have already said that publicly, and I believe it is necessary to state that again in front of this audience. We will have to take additional measures to enhance our security.
Vladimir Putin denied his country is in violation of the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. The U.S. has accused Russia of flouting the nuclear pact and has threatened to pull out from the treaty. The INF was signed by Washington and Moscow during the Cold War. Tension over the issue has revived the specter of a new Cold War between the two sides.
So, you know as well as I do that this is going to be America's doom. They're signing the deal that will lead to their doom. And that's a good thing. We want to see America destroyed. And here's the least of their flock drawing them out. That is Amalek, those gutter rats, and fake-ass fucking Jews, who are not really Jews at all. But they're going to bring further into this war that cannot be won until, it will be won. Of course, we know it's the Most High has really drawn them all in. Hook, line, and sinker, just like the walls of Jericho. We're living that out again. Watching our enemies come past each other and blow each other up. It's a good thing to just kind of sit back and watch.
And from the national headquarters of RT America in our nation's capital. Hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. There is a law that you need to know about tonight that seems to go against really just about everything that we believe in as Americans. It is probably as unconstitutional as anything that this news person
watching
has
Egypt against
heard.
Egypt.
I was born
Egyptian
in
against
Cuba.
Egyptian, rather.
My parents brought me and my brothers to this country, to America,
This
because
piece
they
of
feared
shit?
that if we stayed over there, that we would be forced to think only a certain way politically. Now, as I read this new law that I'm about to share with you, this new law that is creeping into America, I have to admit to you that I am stunned. Stunned. Because it's a law that seems to force people to think a certain way politically. Exactly what my mom and dad did not want me to experience, right? This is serious. This law, which has led to the firing of an elementary school speech teacher in Texas and has even kept hurricane survivors from getting prompt government assistance essentially punishes any American if they dare go against the economic interests of Israel. It's as if they're saying, if you want to live here, you got to be pro-Israel and pro-Israeli policies. Look, I know this sounds crazy. I feel almost crazy just having to report this to you. It's America. Especially considering that there's no such law, nor should there be, by the way, says the
our
US
people are caught in the philosophies
that forces
of bullshit
us,
America,
as Americans, to support even our own country. As much as we love the United States of America, we're allowed to criticize it. We're allowed to boycott it. We're allowed to burn her flag, says the Supreme Court.
I burn everything that this place ever stood for, because it's been nothing but deceit. Speaking of deception, well, you know as well as I do that America ain't fighting the so-called war on ISIS. Nah, ISIS works for America. Let's see what's going on in the Syria war report. Got a couple of them for the last couple of days.
Turkey is ramping up its military preparation and propaganda campaign ahead of a possible attack on the Kurdish People's Protection Unit, YPG, in northeastern Syria. On December 17th, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan declared that the Turkish Armed Forces, TAF, can start an operation any moment now in Syrian territory at any place, especially along the 500-kilometer border without harming US soldiers. He recalled his demands that the Kurdish armed groups must leave the border region, first of all the area of Manbij. If they don't go, we will send them, Erdogan said, adding that US President Trump has given a positive response to the expected TAF operation. During a speech at the Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C., U.S. Special Representative for Syria Engagement, James Jeffries, said that any offensive in northeastern Syria by anyone is a bad idea. However, at the same time, he described the U.S. relations with the Syrian Democratic Forces, which mostly consist of YPG members, as tactical and transactional. The TAF has also increased their strikes on the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, which Ankara sees as a parent organization of the YPG in northern Iraq. Over the past few days, Turkish warplanes eliminated about a dozen PKK positions in the region. On December 18th, Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar stressed that the TAF will not allow the Sinjar region to be turned into a stronghold of the PKK and called on the Iraqi government to assist in this. Baghdad has repeatedly criticized Turkey for its cross-border operation in the region, but does not have a resource to force Ankara to stop its activity now. In eastern Syria, the SDF captured the town of Hajin from ISIS, according to pro-Kurdish sources. The same sources claim that over 200 ISIS members were killed during the past few days there. Despite this, ISIS is still in control of a number of positions near Hajin. Clashes are being reported in the area.
There's more. Got one more report here.
A former serviceman of the Russian airborne troops, Alexander Dudchenko, has been killed by mortar shelling in northern Latakia, according to reports in Russian media outlets. The incident reportedly took place near the town of Kinsapa, where Dudchenko came under fire from the Turkish-backed National Front for Liberation, NFL. Local sources say that he was among Russian private military contractors that operate in the country. During the past few weeks, the NFL, other pro-Turkish militant groups, as well as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, formerly Jabhat al-Nusra, and its allies, violated the ceasefire regime in the Idlib de-escalation zone multiple times. On some parts of the contact line, such as northern Hama, they even carried out limited ground attacks, which were repelled. At the same time, local activists say that Turkish servicemen, in cooperation with members of militant groups, prevent civilians from leaving the Idlib zone through the existing humanitarian corridor, under various pretexts. These developments are another strong signal that the militancy problem in western Syria cannot be solved by peaceful means alone. In the nearest future, Idlib militants will continue their attacks on positions of the Syrian Arab Army, SAA, hiding behind the so-called ceasefire regime and accusing the SAA of violations every time government forces respond
there'll be more false
to these
flags
attacks.
in the coming year.
On December the 19th, State Department Deputy Spokesperson Robert Palladino officially
Damascus.
denied that US President Donald Trump had given a green light to a Turkish military operation against Kurdish armed groups east of the Euphrates. According to Palladino, the December 17th
Shalom.
remarks made by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan